What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 40. We are coming fresh off of the community reveal, I guess is what it was. It was supposed to be the invitational episode, but it turned into a community reveal, and we have a lot to discuss today. Obviously, everything coming with Crimson Heist, everything coming with the Year 6 reveal. A lot of that stuff we're going to get into and talk about what we think about it. You know, we've both been playing the test server and having a lot of fun there. And real quick, I just want to, thank everybody who tuned into that community reveal, as well as the invitational special edition that we did here on the channel. It was a personal honor for me to be a part of that broadcast. I know you've been a part of the invitational broadcast before as, an analyst, but for me, that was the first. And even though it wasn't the invitational, it was the Year 6 reveal, which I thought was a big deal. And I was really grateful to be a part of it, and it was an honor.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, ideally it would have been a couch somewhere, like during a live event, but with what was possible, I'm really happy with how it worked out. And I guess a little side note for everyone, because there was a few people confused that it was pre-recorded. They had the idea that it was live. I'll fully disclose it just so everyone understands that everything we will ever do at anything like that is going to be pre-recorded. If we ever do it live, it will have to be scripted. There are just like with NDAs and everything and talking about live content that is coming, it is way too much of a gamble to do that live. So yeah.
Yeah, with that said, I think that, well, first of all, we did collect actual community questions. The community questions, we collected a very long time ago in preparation for this, and I was really happy with how everything turned out. I thought that we represented the community pretty well there, and some pressing issues, and I was really happy with what JB and Alex had to say, and I guess that kind of transitioned us into the Year 6 reveal and Operation Crimson Heist. Not Operation.
Yeah,
Crimson
that's
Heist.
really weird.
They are dropping the operation. It's now just Crimson Heist.
Yeah.
So I guess, okay, before we get into that, I'm sorry. Let me just throw this out there. Like, if you didn't catch our previous episode, it was the second half of that with JB and Alex, in which we talk about Crimson Heist and the new operator and stuff. It's really interesting stuff. So go back and watch that. With that said, what are your thoughts with Year 6 reveal? I mean, go wherever you want right now. Year 6 reveal, Crimson Heist, wherever you want, go.
There is so much.
I know.
So much. So, where do we start? Okay, we're gonna start with Gun 6.
Because yeah, that's a good place.
For me, and I know for you, this is a pretty big thing. We talked about it on the podcast. We then this was with Intero and Troy, or Canadian. When we had that podcast, people can go back and watch that, where we all had kind of a little brainstorm session and talked about what could we do to deal with the utility meta. And then I think we had another episode later on with Matt Lacombe, talking about weapons and stuff. And I think he kind of nudged towards a little that they were looking at something where they could, deal with the utility meta. And I think he even said some of the ideas that have been mentioned on the podcast. And I originally thought that was maybe something to do with DMRs or something like that, especially because he was the guy like working on, weapon recall, stuff like that. And then when we were doing the invitational episode, we of course had to know, because we had to talk about it. And that was really cool, because getting that little nudge that there was some inspiration, like, let's not pretend like we're the only people in the entire world that ever thought of this. It's not our little baby. It's not our idea. We don't have any kind of we don't deserve credit or patent on it at all. But it just feels cool to get that little nudge with, good idea. We'll put something like that in the game. And I saw Kit Grando was he put a tweet out with the artwork for the Gun 6, and he wanted to have given some sort of thing in the skin, or just a little Easter egg somewhere on the gun for Logic Bomb, but he couldn't really find a place to fit it in. But that whole little thing has made my month. I was really, really excited about that. And it's pretty neat gadget. So from a gameplay perspective, it's a cool thing as well, right? You get another option. We haven't since secondary shotgun, so all the way since Mira, we haven't gotten a new secondary weapon choice.
It's true. I mean, there's been different models, but not a new mechanic.
Sure, yeah. We've gotten new types of shotguns. We've gotten new SMGs. We've gotten pistols with red dots, but they're all kind of like they're all the same group, right? So now we have a new type, and maybe in the future we'll get more. I don't know what they could do, but it's a cool little thing.
How compared to the original conversation and your vision for how it could work, how happy are you with how it's rolled out so far?
I think it's close to exactly what I had in mind. I thought so right now it has no drop. It just goes straight. And it's 100% accurate in hipfire. I thought it should have been closer to like a Sophia launch or something, so it was like a very slow moving, like lobbing effect. It was more for balance. I think maybe the fact that it shoots completely straight, and how quick it is, because it moves insanely fast.
The whole thing about it
is
an
Ash charge, right?
Yeah.
And it moves faster than an Ash charge. It shoots completely straight. It has 100% hipfire accuracy. Like, it seems very, very strong, but it still gets sapped by ADSs and WMIs, so you can't be, and you have one shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And funny thing, we played on CS, and I was having a long conversation with Flynn about all the changes. He was very against some of them, and I was very for some of them, and we kind of like talked it through and got on the same level with everything. And then we talked about the Gun 6, and someone in chat was saying that, well, it's never a problem losing your pistol, because how often do you use that? The first round Flynn was playing with a Gun 6, he swaps to his secondary to pull out his pistol, and then it's the Gun 6, and he's just shit out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's happened way more to me than I thought. So I think that's a pretty good... it's a pretty big choice, to be honest. Like,
it is a choice.
That, or it's not as cookie cutter as people might think.
Right.
Like, Gun 6 is not always the best option.
I've seen a lot of pros pretty excited about it, which makes me happy to see, because I think that's where it's really going to shine initially, personally. But I guess I'm happy with how it's rolled out. First of all, some people, the things that I've heard so far, number one thing is probably, do you think it should have 2 shots? And my answer to that is no.
Not yet,
and here's why. If you have an evil eye and you have an ADS protecting that evil eye, the Gun 6 should not be able to deal with that evil eye without some help. And if you give the Gun 6 2 rounds, you now are able to clear the ADS and clear the evil eye, and that is simply too strong for a secondary choice, in my opinion.
Not just that, but so if it had 2, who would you give it to where it doesn't become just Ash with better utility?
Exactly. Or Zofia. Right. I mean, that you could make the argument that that's better than Zofia's Lifeline in a lot of ways. Because, like you said, it has perfect accuracy. You don't have to worry about the drop. Now, granted, it doesn't make as big of a hole in soft, but the speed of that thing is a strong aspect of it. Today, I was playing on the reworked border, and in Vents, the downstairs window, I jumped in the normal default rotate, they had barbs. So I jumped in, pulled Gun 6, shoot barbed wire, did not break stride, and I'm through that rotate like that with my gun back out. I mean, it's just like boom, 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 like so fast. And I think that's like a really cool aspect of it.
And you can do things like where you're standing without really taking damage, because it does like 10 damage, right? So, so if you use it for a hatch or a castle barricade of wire, you don't really have to worry about if you're standing on top of it.
Just using it for a barricade. Now, I know this isn't the biggest like use of it, but if you want to surprise somebody through a window or a barricade, the only thing that will destroy one as fast would be a Zofia launcher.
Yep.
I mean, even a Kali or anything, Kali Ash is going to have a wind-up time. With this, it's just boom, gone. And you can be through there. And like I said, you can hot drop a hatch, you can hot drop a barricade, because it doesn't do much damage. You can just do it really fast. That's been a really fun aspect of it. I think we're just scratching the surface there. The only thing that I would say is I'm a little bit I question a little bit the operators they give it to, and on some of the ones where they replace nades. Because here's my thing: in order for the Gon 6 to have the intention that I felt like we were originally talking about, it has to be a net positive for the operator. So if you give it to Dokkaebi, but you remove her frag grenades, in my opinion, Dokkaebi is now at a negative. Because Dokkaebi had the potential of clearing 2 different devices with those grenades, plus the lethal aspect of it. And now she has the Gon 6 instead of the frags. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily get that. The other thing is that, to me, I think they gave it to off-meta operators. And I think that's normal. You know what I mean? I get it. They want the off-meta operators to receive a little nudge, so maybe they're not off-meta anymore. Maybe they do put them into the pick rate. But if the intention behind the Gon 6 is to try to remedy the 20-second meta, it needs to be on operators that are going to be brought. You know what I mean? Yeah, and will remain that remains to be seen. I mean, who's the most meta operator that has it?
I don't know, but I mean, Zero has it now.
Zero.
Zero has 4 cams now: Heartbreach, utility, and the Gon 6. Yeah. Like, he is the jack of all trades now. Well, he can do everything.
Amaru has her hook, G8 with angle grip, all the original sights. She still has ACOG available to her.
Yeah, but she lost shotgun. She lost the secondary shotgun for the Gon 6.
Exactly. Right. But keep in mind, that's a decision. That's a decision, I guess. But keep in mind, the Gon 6 can open a hatch. And she can go up vertically through a hatch. So, I don't know.
Yana has it.
But Amaru has hard breach, G8, can go up hatches, Gon 6. A lot of people, what was really popular on Reddit was giving it to Buck. I kind of agree. I'd like to see him give it to Buck.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I think the difficult thing with giving it to, I don't know, like, so the argument is that there's 2 reasons to give it to off-meta operators. One of the reasons is that they're off-meta because they're lacking something to be worth bringing, right? So it's a choice that we want to play this operator, but we will be missing something by choosing it. And then the other one is if you give it to someone, they might be more interesting or allow for them to create a lineup where it could possibly work. Grenades are a difficult thing to balance, I feel like, because if you get too many grenades on a team, it's horrendous to play against as a defender. Mm-hmm. Because if you put a little bit of effort in, you can get some really good kills with grenades.
Yeah.
That are almost impossible to counter. There are ways to cook a nade and land it in a certain spot that's a pretty default spot where if there is not an ADS to cover your ass, you just die. There's nothing you can do about it. Because grenades and siege are a insta-kill, right? Unless you have Rogan or you're overstimmed or something. Whereas in something like CS, where you have very specific spots you play, grenades never do full damage. They will never one-shot you, right? Unless you don't have armor. So I think it's dangerous to balance that. And if the choice is between grenades and the Gon 6, I think you'd always take grenades. Right? Because you have 2 grenades. So.
Yeah.
And you only get 1 Gon 6. I think the choice should be like between operators that maybe have Claymore or Gon 6, or Heartbreach or Gon 6, right? So that's the swap. I think the throwable gadgets are kind of difficult because some of the operators are like, we literally see things in meta based on if they have flashbangs or not, right?
Right.
That has been a choice on some operators, that if they don't have flashbangs, they're not being brought, or if they don't have grenades, if they don't have smokes, because you need that at some point in your execute. So I'm not envying them in terms of who to give them to. I'd be fine with like Buck receiving it, maybe Nomad, because she spends a lot of time setting up and getting the air jabs out, and then she could go and burn something. But on the other hand, if you give it to Nomad, she has 3 air jabs, 3 flashbangs, right, and the Gon 6. She could fully burn and deal with a shield herself, no matter what.
Right.
If you give it to Capital, you could burn all the Wamais, and then remove a shield if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
See, my original thought process when we were talking about it on the podcast was giving it to everybody. And I still don't think that's necessarily an awful idea. And here's why. So I mentioned that on stream, and people initially go, "Oh, you're saying you're going to give Ash another way of clearing something? So she's going to have 3 breaching charges?" And well, doesn't if that's the case, then couldn't you make the argument that it would be almost foolish for Ash to bring it? That she would be better off to bring the pistol if she already has all that utility clear already? If it is actually a choice between the pistol and not, I'm not saying it is. Like, I get
but then
that.
you have to make it harder to use.
Right.
Then I'll be with you. Like if it was the lobbing mechanic and maybe it flew kind of slow and you had to like every time you pulled it out you had to like breach load it and put it in and get it ready, right? Like there was some prep time on the gadget, because right now you're literally just 6-gunning it, pulling it out, go pew, and then it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So if you play around with some of those mechanics, yeah, then maybe you could probably give it to everyone. But it's also like, I feel like it came at a time where the Gun 6 is basically the warden of sidearms. And I mean it in the best possible way, because I'm so happy it's there. But it came to fix something that is no longer an issue, in my opinion. I don't know how true it is, but like, I have not seen utility be a problem in the last 6 months of playing ranked. I can't remember last when we couldn't do our attack because there was too much stuff to deal with.
It feels so good though to go into a room, see an evil eye, be an operator that has never had a way of dealing with that before, pull this thing out and just delete it off the face of the earth though.
Yep.
Like, that feels really good. I agree with what you're saying. However, it's in the game now, and it will be forever.
Yeah.
And I could see. Okay, let's theory craft here a little bit. So the knock changes. I'm sure we'll break this down a little bit more. But the knock changes that are in the TS, as far as she can now use her ability to get through Ella mines, through Melusi banshees, through proximity alarms, and all that.
Yep.
If that ends up coming to the live server, which I fully expect it to, the feedback I've seen so far has been pretty positive. Could we see a situation where barbed wire is now even more important than it already is, and maybe it makes it even more popular? One of the best ways to use the Gon 6, in my opinion, is deleting barbed wire just like that. So, again, it's just, I'm theory crafting a little bit there. Like, you never know what's going to come down the road, and then all of a sudden you look at this secondary option, which you haven't maybe used that much, but you're like, holy shit, I'm glad this is here, because it's a perfect answer to this.
But that's the good thing. Now it's here, and if we ever get into like some super heavy utility meta, if it ever becomes a thing, because let's be fair, the 20-second meta stuff has been used a little longer as a term for what meta we're in than what's actually happening in reality. And there's also it's a very like fine balance between if we're going to full fragging or if we're going to like very heavy bunker utility meta, right? And you don't want to flip that switch too far. Like ideally we're always like hovering between a little bit too much utility and a little bit too much fragging, right? So different teams can have like identities and personalities as teams. Like I want to be watching a team and then being able to see, oh, this is their playstyle. Not that they have to do a certain thing, because it's so much stronger than everything else. And with something like this, at least there are options to deal with it if it becomes a thing. I do think, just a quick on the barbed wire, I do think we should probably ask for a wire or barbed wire buff soon. Because there are some things you can do now with the electric immunity they're testing out. There's some really interesting things. I know you caught a little bit of flack for your little post with the ADS next to it, where people were like, oh yeah, but you can just shoot one Sophia charge or something. But like, it's the same shit that like people already put an ADS next to a doorway to cover a deployable shield, and like it's no different, right? Now you can just electrify it.
All right, let me explain that a little bit, all right? Because I'm glad that you mentioned that, all right? So in the test server, for anybody who's not familiar, in the test server, they're trying out Defender electricity immunity. So right now, if you have a wall electrified and you throw a goo mine against that wall, it zaps it and off the face of the earth. In the test server, they're testing out to where Defender gadgets are immune to that. So what I did was on the fly, literally. This is not in a custom game. This is not with a 5-stack. It was me and one other person, I believe, in the Discovery playlist on Border. On the fly, didn't keep in mind the Discovery playlist, you don't even pick the site you go to. I'm like, hey, bring a Malusi here. And I brought Cade. And I'm just like, let's just set this down and see what happens. Threw my Cade on the wall. And I was like, look at this. This is kind of interesting. And we had a Banshee sit in the middle of electrified barbed wire. We had an ADS on the side. It was cool to look at. And then I just put the question out there to the community, like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And people were like, oh my God, you're trying so hard to present a problem that doesn't exist. Like, no, I wasn't. I was honestly trying to just start a conversation about it because it is something that we need to talk about. Like, it's very easy for this stuff to go in the test server and nobody really to bat an eye. And the next thing you know, you're watching a pro match and they've got a deployable shield set up with a Cade Electric Claw and some barbed wire. You're
massive impact. And I don't think people realize. So, it's both sides because there are people saying, "Oh, this is way too strong." There are people saying, "Oh, this means nothing." It means something because electrified barbed wire, you can't get your drones past. And if we can start comboing stuff like electrified barbed wire and mute jammers, or electrified barbed wire and ADSs, goo mines in the edge of electrified barbed wire, there are so many weird small little combos that kind of matter. You can have a mossy pest inside electrified barbed wire, and now a Twitch drone cannot go unsap it.
Right.
There's some very interesting things you can do.
Well, just on the surface, if you electrify barbed wire, you're removing one of the ways of getting rid of it. That being ash.
Yep. Unless you shoot the ash charge outside of the field.
In the vicinity. Yes. Right.
Yeah. But it makes it more complicated.
Absolutely.
To do so. It also makes it harder for attackers to get even a deployable shield that is electrified. An ash that messes up might hit the shield and get it sapped, right? The Gun 6, by the way, is immune to electricity, so that's another good reason to use it.
Yeah.
But no, it definitely matters. The biggest thing that I've seen, and I've actually been trying the whole day to get this to work, like for 8 hours on test servers, I've been trying so hard to get a clip of this, and I just couldn't find a team that played, I was going to say the game right. Everyone's just running around, right? Like, it's test server, it makes sense, it's fair. But take a map like Clubhouse on CC Wall. You put your key charges so they're well hidden. You ban Thatcher. They have to Mav the wall. Mav goes to the wall. I can throw a C4 out onto the electrified wall. On the actual electrified wall. And blow him up.
Yeah.
And now they cannot get that wall open.
Yeah.
Or I can throw smoke grenades at the wall. And smoke him out as he's on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
I can literally just throw them at the floor of the wall and they will not get sapped, which they would be for. Yeah. I can at least guarantee that I do. It'll be a minimum of 15 damage per smoke grenade, right? So at least 45 damage to Mav as he's opening it. Then you can argue if it's worth it, but every single time I do 15 damage, he also has to piss off for 10 seconds.
That's absolutely worth it. Because there's no guarantee with a smoke that you're going to survive the end of the round. If you have an opportunity to make an impact with your utility, I think you take it.
And someone is covering him as well, right?
Right.
So I'm stopping him from opening. I'm stopping whoever is there to protect them from doing anything in the start of the match. So either the rest of the team is working and there's a chance that some of those might, win or lose their gunfights, whatever it might be. But the initial Mav opening of the wall will not happen until 45 seconds later in the round than it otherwise would have.
Yeah.
I think that's huge because we see so many rounds go down to 30 seconds before they're even ready to start worrying about executing. And then they still have to remove things, right? And this is only in comp play. It rarely happens in ranked. It normally turns into a 2v2 by that time anyway. But that's a pretty big thing because if you're good with a C4, I'm pretty sure you can kill Mav every single time.
That's That's probably the most likely way we're going to see this have an immediate impact, is what you're describing there with the Mav.
Yeah, it's
And I
terrifying.
guess the question would be, though, is that okay? Because Mav really doesn't have a counter up to this point. Are we okay with the fact that Mav might have to worry a little bit?
Well, he had to before as well, but the thing was that before, at least, like, what I don't like is that before, as a math player, I could kind of read it. If the wall is electrified, I know, okay, I'm not getting C4, right? It could have been muted instead, and then I could get C4.
Right.
Or they could pull the electricity away. Like, I've played against people that shot their bandit battery to C4 out, and then still got, so, like, if it's a really competent player on the other team, there are ways to deal with it, right? The same if you just swish cheese the whole wall. It's so annoying to map open, and you can get a I don't know, steeper angle or better angle as a defender when you have the reinforcement on your side, because you can see about 2 meters to each side of a one mav hole. If you lean up against the wall, you can get some, like, you basically, mav can only mav within melee range. It's about 2 meters. So no matter where he is ever on a mav hole, you will always be able to shoot him as a defender on the other side. It is impossible for mav to be burning without being able to be shot. The problem with that is that, CCTV, for example, there's a window on the other side, so you can't just move around freely,
Right.
Unless it's castle or you're protected or something. So, but it kind of scares me, this idea that I've always, for this long, and I know, like, you can't, like, there's many changes. We'll talk about that with the attacker repick, for example. Like, you can't say that, well, because it's always been like that, it should be. But it just terrifies me knowing that electrified walls now, electrified barbed wire, a C4 can land in it, and it's not going to destroy that.
And what are they solving with this? I mean, they're simplifying the game a little bit, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't seem like they're simplifying it for us that have lived with this for the last 5 years, but for a new player, not having to worry about, hey, I'm going to electrify this wall.
But wait, what I'm not buying is that I think they said that they're kind of doing it because Yokai and Mossy doesn't get sapped. Couldn't they just make it so they get sapped? Then sure, okay, electrified barbed wire will destroy them. So what?
Well,
Runegates already do.
Here, what? And I'm not calling them liars by any means, but what if they're doing this for a new operator that's down the line that has some type of a gadget that just, this needs to go away in order for this gadget to make sense? I don't know. Could be a possibility.
Yeah, it definitely could. I can't figure out how it could correlate, but I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna rule it out. It's just, I don't know. I think it might change some things in a not so fun way.
I also kind of feel like this is like the newest thing that is an indirect buff to Cade over Bandit. So yeah. I think, okay, so Sophia and Ash, their area of effect on their explosives being reduced, that was a buff to Cade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact is that, you can still get rid of a bandit charge very easily with both of those gadgets from underneath, but a Cade Electric Claw placed high enough is going to be out of that area of effect. Then you look at Flores. Flores is the same thing. Like, I've already found so many different places where I can go underneath with Flores' drone and remove bandit charges, no problem, without even having to jump on things sometimes. Whereas with Cade, it presents a much bigger challenge there. Yep. And then this third thing with the electricity thing, I mean, I think it's kind of like there's a lot of things in a row here that are kind of like saying, hey, Cade is a much smarter pick than a Bandit. Maybe that's the way it should be. Bandit has a better gun. Bandit's a 3-speed. Bandit, Cade has nice resell too. But maybe that's the way it should be. But I'm just saying, kind of like, be careful here, because we're approaching the point where it's going to be like, Bandit doesn't make sense at all. And maybe Bandit is like at the bottom of the list of things that need reworked in this game, but maybe they should look at making Bandit's batteries similar to mute jammers, where you set them down and they have an area of effect instead of having to set them on a wall. That way you could still electrify barbed wire without placing it in the middle of the barbed wire. You could place it on the side and then electrify barbed wire.
What if so seeing as batteries are so much bigger and so much easier to deal with, what about the idea of anything connecting? And we can pull we can easily build a story around why it makes sense and blah blah blah. Kid claws are small, right? Maybe they have a small battery, whatever. Bandit batteries are massive car batteries with a taser duct tape to them, right? What if I put one battery down, every subsequent connecting wall gets electrified? Everything
so one
that
battery would do 3.
Yeah, it would fully flow. So if I put one battery on garage walls and consulate, it'll get all 3 walls. If I put barbed wire touching those walls, it would also get them. So a battery would get everything that is connected. It would all lose electricity the second that battery gets shot, though. So it isn't an instant win. But now I could put, for example, a barbed wire in front of the drone hole, and I could reinforce the 3 walls, put one battery down, and I get the whole thing.
All right. I'm not saying this is realistic, but hear me out. This is the first thing I thought of. All right, so what happens if you bring, say, 3 operators that have barbed wire, and you extend the barbed wire from console garage all the way back to, say, kitchen or office maybe, and then you put the bandit battery down in office, and now you've electrified consulate garage wall from office.
Wouldn't that be kind of cool, though?
It would be kind of cool.
Also, hey, the only thing you would need is to break the chain.
Yeah, true. So if you... yeah, right.
Or fuse charge above, right? Like, honestly, that would be a fucking cool idea.
It's kind of cool, yeah.
Can you imagine you could like hide your battery somewhere? I know it sounds insane, but this is what made Siege fun. It's like those crazy things that you can do, and they don't have to be good, right? Like this doesn't have maybe there is some sort of place in comp where it would be really good.
Bro, I'm just like thinking about this.
Like there's plenty of fun stuff you could do, right? And just from a casual or a rank perspective, dude, I'd love to, I have no reason to bring barbed wire. The only reason I ever hear anyone, at least in the stacks that I play in, ask about barbed wire is because they run around all the time and they just want to know if anyone's anywhere. Like that's it. They're asking, "Oh, can you put barbed wire there just so I can hear if they come while they're zooming around everywhere?" Because otherwise, like whether you have a Melusi or a goo mine or something, like it doesn't matter what it is. You just want an audio cue, right?
Yeah.
But what if there was like a good reason to, and bandit batteries, they suck, man, because they have to be one place.
Yeah.
But, bandit is only surviving right now because he is favored among all the let's peek everything.
Yeah.
The last time I saw a smart bandit player that was willing to bandit trick and really play as the bandit, like that doesn't happen, man. They put down 2 out of their 4 batteries and then they yeet off site and try to get a fast kill.
Bandit's batteries are pretty garbage, in all honesty. Yeah. I mean, they're the worst wall denial. I mean, from a utility perspective, it's very tough to make a case for why you would bring bandit over mute in any scenario. Unless
you're gonna trick.
Yeah, that's really it. Or mute. I think the MP7 is the best gun on defense. I would pick. Sure. I would say that the MP7 is the best gun on defense over the Alda.
Sure. But we should not be picking operators based on guns.
I agree.
Not in this game. And I don't fault anyone for doing it. I just think that if an operator starts being picked because of the weapon instead of the utility, there needs to be a priority swift.
Sure.
I will always look at the game that way. Which, I mean, for better or for worse, I'm sure there's some people that gravitate towards the gunplay stuff mainly. I'm way too bad at video games to do that. Like, I want to play with the technical and the utility stuff. That's what I find fun about it. But this would give Bandit some sort of interesting use.
Sure.
And it would be a good excuse for making this electricity immunity. Right? Because if you didn't, it kind of wouldn't work.
Right.
And I think it's Kai before when he had the big AoE. would actually have been really fun with the electric immunity now. Also, by the way, for anyone that might go on test server right now and try it, to remember it doesn't work in custom game. It just turned off in custom games because I spent half an hour like a massive idiot trying to get this stuff to work in a custom game, and then I learned a little thing about read the damn manual because it actually says in the news page that it's not in the custom games at all.
I had the same thing happen to me.
Yeah. I felt like such an idiot.
What about Flores? What are you thinking about him?
It's a lot harder to use than I thought. Like, there's some really cool jump spots, like vents and stuff you can get on, without a doubt. But damn, you spend a lot of time on those little cameras, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you go through the full run on all four of them, that's 40 seconds, like just of driving time, right? And it's quite rare that you don't need all the time, right? Like, sure, you can maybe come 2 or 3 seconds off here or there, and you can, if you cancel as you're setting it to blow, you can get out of it faster, stuff like that. So you can save a couple seconds there, but I think it's kind of like his utility, if you want to get use out of it, takes a good like 30-35 seconds minimum per round of inactivity where you're just using your utility. So you're kind of vulnerable. I hate his loadout in terms of weapons. That is the biggest disappointment on any operator, in my opinion, since Dokkaebi.
You don't like the SR-25 when it doesn't have a bulletproof face shield attached to it?
I don't even like it when it has the face shield. I hate that gun. If like, give it the 417. Twitch's DMR. That was a good. That's a good DMR. It's fun to use. It can shoot fast. The SR-25 is just it's bottom of the food chain. Like, I'd rather have Dokkaebi's DMR than the SR. The AR-33, like, I get it. Thatcher has it. No one runs it, so put it on another one. But I feel like he kind of got all the trash. I think, honestly, look at his weapon loadout. He has the GZH, the worst pistol. Like, no one picks that. The only people you ever see that has the GZH are the ones that have like the guest name account and are playing Fuse on a hostage map, right? Otherwise, you just don't want that pistol. It's horrendous. Then in all fairness, like, you have the PMM as the option on every other operator that has it. I just feel like if you're only gonna give him one pistol, then don't give him the worst. If you're gonna give him 2 guns, because I don't mind with the reused guns. We've been over that, of course, but there's the one issue that you don't really know if it was a Thatcher or Florence that killed you now. And we have that with some other operators with MP5s and stuff like that. I don't like that, which is why I would like that we saw a little icon of who killed you instead. Because when you die, you still get the kill flash, so there's no point in hiding it anymore.
Right.
We'll put it in the kill feed. It's kind of dumb. Get there. And it would just look cool UI-wise that you can see what operator killed what operator. Also for spectating, it makes more sense. And then we get around the issue of not knowing what operator killed who. But yeah, I feel like they strolled through a list of all the weapons that aren't being used enough and then gave him that. Then, in their defense, maybe it's to force use on these weapons so they can see if they need buffs. Right? Maybe you get more people to play them because they don't have any option, and then you can see if there's something statistically bad with the gun. Or if we're just moaning and hating them for no reason.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people that like the guns. But if it was between the L85 and the AR-33, there's no way I'm ever taking the AR-33. Less ammo. The only benefit is it has angled. Slower fire rate, I believe. I'm not actually sure about that one, but it feels slow. I don't know.
I don't hate the AR-33.
I
think it's a usable. It's a usable AR. There's like, it doesn't invoke anything. I want to see them reuse Lion's. I don't even know what it's called. The Vector 308, is that what it's called? Lion's AR. Like, that is a really cool weapon,
and it's really
that
fun.
I don't get to play because I don't play Lion.
Yeah, it
And
would have been fun with them using that big Finkus gun for that matter.
yeah,
The spear.
Yeah, so I kind of get what you're saying there. I really like Flores. I think that we finally have what I would consider to be a suitable Thatcher alternative. Not
Hmm?
perfect. It's not perfect. But you know, Amazi, Amu, and frankly, anybody who sees it can shoot it. So it's not a perfect Thatcher alternative, but it isn't a Thatcher alternative that can also clear a deployable shield. That's pretty cool.
One of the things I want to try him as is vertical.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, there's a
but
ton of
but
potential.
from above, right? So something like Consulate, instead of going in with Buck and opening up the floor and needing people to cover you as you're there,
Yeah.
you just sit outside as floors and you just drive your little drone in.
So I tested that, and it will not remove from piano floor. It will not remove bandit batteries, but if it's a cade that's placed anywhere other than the bottom, it will remove that.
And it will kill
So
people if they're standing up below it.
yes, so like canal, if they're down in the kayak's closet, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The little closet by trench. If you drive your drone above them and stop it, it'll kill them if they're
Yep.
standing in there. It'll kill people if they're crouched in kitchen from VIP. The default anchor spot in kitchen coastline.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll,
I mean, it's the same as C4, right? It's the
yes.
exact same damage model, which means every room that has a normal height ceiling, if you are within a meter's like deviation from center of that character and they are crouched, you will kill them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually kind of crazy, right?
It is.
You could probably you'll remove deployable shields as well, I assume.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you could remove all the deployable shields on coastline from above by sitting in. You could sit on the roof. You can drive them through the drone hole in guitar hallway.
Yeah.
And you can
keep in mind
one above rotate and
keep in mind that an ADS doesn't interact with it. So if you're sitting behind, you know, Aqua Bar on coastline and one of those drops down the vent, you have to move. Like it's there's nothing you can do to stop that.
I saw a very interesting, just when we were talking about Flores, very interesting mechanic that could be very, very fun with. So mute got buffed, and I started thinking about it. If you mute a Flores drone, it stops in its track, but when the mute jammer gets destroyed, it instantly goes into bulletproof mode, and it doesn't drive anymore. So what you could do is, if you get one locked down as a mute, and the attackers are about to push, you can shoot your own mute jammer.
Wow. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I know where you're going.
Instantly gets locked down and just stops there. Because we were testing some stuff today, and I just thinking back at it now, like I didn't think about it before now. I drove all 4 drones into a mute jammer just to see what happened. Because I wanted to see if I could get them like all to spread out when I shot the mute jammer and then blow up different places. But they all just instantly turned red and locked down. So there could be some very interesting things you could do with a mute jammer there. I don't know if you would have time to like mute trick. Like
you can. It's really tight.
Arguably, the Flores is he's probably gonna turn them on, right? Unless they're driving by themselves. But even if he just messes up, because like we all know that we like to play with fire a little bit, and every time we get the mute jammer, we think, "I'll go a little bit closer," and then it's stuck. That's just a fun thing to keep an eye out for. If anyone actually ends up getting a kill, please tweet me. I want to see that. But no, he's a super fun operator, and let's be fair, since Twitch got a second drone, pretty much people have been talking about wanting like a drone with a C4 on it. That's pretty much exactly what they're getting. They're just getting 4 of them.
Yeah,
is that too many?
No, okay, it could be, but I'm happy they're going to introduce him with this because listen, so I've been playing a lot of Valorant. I'm not trying. Valorant and Siege are completely different games. All right, I'm not. Yeah, like I know that there's like already people they hear the word Valorant and they're like, oh god,
they're sweating, they're angry.
Okay, but one of the things about Valorant that I'm like kind of taking away from it is how many times in a round you as an agent in Valorant get to do your unique little thing. And keep in mind in that game, Some of the agents, they're all different, but some of the agents have like 3 unique things. And granted, it might be a different version of a flash, but it's still a flash. Now, take Sky, for example. So in a round of Valorant, which is what, 1 minute and 40 seconds, with Flash, I might throw out 3 different flashes, her dog, which is like a scout, like kind of drone type thing. And then also I can heal my teammates, and maybe I have my ult, which sends out another thing. So in one round, I'm getting to do how many different, like literally like 5 or 6 different things that are kind of like, hey, this is me, this is unique. I'm using my agent, and I'm like trying to like be cool with her. And in Siege, a lot of times there's especially on defense, I'm Jaeger. Put down my ADSs in the prep phase. All right, see you guys later. Let's go shoot people. On attack, I'm Thermite. Okay, I can't do anything until this wall gets open. I'm not trying to change the way that Thermite works, but what I'm saying is I'm glad that there's an operator coming into the game where I might have 4 opportunities to do my little special thing and have a cool play or a cool moment with it. And I would like to see more operators come in like that. Like Nook is cool, but you push something and then you just walk around. It's not really like I don't know. I guess with her buffs, it is a little bit more of a special thing. But like I want to see more operators that are like, that like this. I pull out my drone. I have one that can blow up, and it's a special thing that I can do, and I can do it 4 times per round. That's awesome.
We need to put a pin in Nook because I have a bone to pick with that buff. But was it JB we were talking to when he was like, they don't like the idea of just removing gadgets, and I really understand that standpoint whenever I go and play anything else. This idea of just remove one shield, like the E, and it's also it's a lazy fucking fix, man.
Right.
The idea of just take one away. It dumbs down the game. It makes it less. Like it makes your utility matter less, not more. Because sure, you have to be better at placing them the one correct spot, but there's less chance that they impact the round. I would rather see all gadgets get slightly nerfed, but get more of them, right? Bennett is a good example. He has 4 batteries, right? Jaeger has 3 ADSs, but like if you take one away, like I even think the idea of taking like lowering Goyo's shields was kind of meh, because it was what made him him. If the gun 6 was in at that point, maybe it wouldn't have been necessary.
Right.
Or if the Jaeger nerf was in, or whatever it might be. But the idea of just lowering the count is boring. I don't want to play Kapkan if Kapkan only has 2 traps.
Right.
I might as well just play anything at that point, because the chance of my gadget having some sort of meaningful impact, it doesn't have to win a round. It doesn't have to kill anybody. It doesn't have to. It just has to feel like I'm playing an operator that has a job, and the utility that I have matters. So why it sucks to play Maestro if you can't use your cameras, right? You're expected to. You need to make rotates. You might need to impact trick. You need to be active on your cameras. You also have an Alda. You just have too much to do. If Maestro had, I don't know, 3 or 4 cameras, but he could only have one active at a time, like whenever the things closed, he couldn't see through them. He could only see through them.
No teammates could either, maybe.
Yeah. Like honestly, anything. But the more you have to play around with that makes your character unique and special, makes it more fun, in my opinion. I know people are gonna freak out and they're gonna like see it as, oh, you want 100 deployable shields. Not at all. I just want to know that when I'm playing an operator, I'm playing it for the utility and the gadgets they bring, and for what that operator is, not for their gun and for their pure fragging potential. And then we can get into the whole discussion with, oh, well, Siege is a shooter. Sure, but there's a reason that you're playing Siege, not CS, right? There's a reason that Valorant decided to change the way that their utility work compared to CS. CS is amazing. It's such a good game, but it's good because it's very, very simple. Siege is good because it's very, very complex. And there's positives and negatives with both of those.
Sure.
And if we find like the middle ground, I think it's just gonna be mud. Like it's not gonna work. We have to keep it complex with a ton of options and have the skill ceiling just be infinitely high, right? But the level to entry, or the barrier to entry, should be super low. It should be easy to get in and play Siege and understand. Okay, well, fire is hot, lasers go sap sap, electricity is bad. Pretty intuitive and easy to understand. But then there's all the complex shit that you can build on top of it. So I just hope we get away from this idea of the solution being just remove one. Like remove one Banshee, remove one ADS, remove one shield. Can you imagine if that was just what was happening to everything? At the end, like we'd end up with everyone just like you play Jaeger, you have one ADS, that's it. Just plays it down. Like how fun is that? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like on one hand, I completely agree with you. On the other hand, like when you talk about Malusi's Banshee, like could that have been a band-aid fix to get us through to this point until they actually rework her gadget? Maybe. I don't know. I mean,
Sure, but how long? Okay, so I guess this is the like us being ranty and entitled, but how long is fair to ask the player base to test something before we are sure that we are right?
right.
Because
Yeah.
Chachanka is still a reasonable. I still think it's okay to bring up Chachanka and say we were wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How long do we need to test something before like we can say that you should have fixed it by now? Because they'll always be a little behind because community has to say, okay, this shit is broken. They also have to go, okay, we'll fix it, and then they have to, find a fix, develop it, deploy it, and then get it out. So it will always feel like they're reacting too slowly, even if they're doing it as fast as humanly possible. But you need to, it's the start portion of testing when you give it to the public, because you can do all the testing you want in closed environments. You can do all the workshops. Like we know for a fact that some of the workshops feedback comes that are, straight against what is being released, and other times it's buff this or nerf this or something, and they don't have to do what the feedback says. They just have to listen to the feedback and then figure out if it's like what they want to do with it. And sometimes the workshops ask for things to be stronger than they were or weaker than they were. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but we can't look at all the times where we were right and then say like we should always be trusted. We were damn wrong a lot of times as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Cheng is a really good example. If he got changed, he would have been useless. Like he is close to useless in ranked at high elo right now. I see him never.
Yeah.
I see him as little as I did before. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think that's a great point, because the reaction to his rework was pretty out there from a lot of people. A lot of people
The entire Twitch chat was broken,
yeah.
OP, right?
Yeah.
Lion 2.0.
On a side note there, I think that if they just allowed Tachanka to deploy all of his utility without having to reload, I think he would be perfect. But that's a completely different conversation.
Oh, you mean just have a bigger jump on?
Yeah, just allow him to shoot all 10 of them or whatever without having to reload. And I think we're in a good spot personally. But
That's interesting.
I don't know.
GSH pistol, give it red dot, and I'm good with it.
Yeah, and ACOG.
Yeah, 4 times.
But no, that's a good point. And I mean, Malusi's obviously, I think the mistake with Malusi was just the timing. Introducing another bulletproof gadget that does crowd control at a time when everybody was.
It was crowd control. It's crowd control that gets, because every operator we've ever gotten that crowd controls, and so this happens in every game that has CC or crowd control. We don't like playing when it feels like our ability isn't the reason that we lost, right?
Right.
It's the same. Like Lions suck to play against because you felt like it didn't matter what you did. Legion sucks when you get stabbed because you can't sprint away, you can't do it. Ella sucked because she fucked with your ADS sense, right? Echo was annoying because you couldn't move originally.
Couldn't find it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was invisible as well. That's a fun change, by the way. Like that doesn't seem. I still have plenty of success playing Echo right now, to be honest.
And you're about to be able to control it while you're dead. So
yeah, that's that one. That one's another interesting one. But everything that messes with your movement in a shooter, I feel like in any community is always going to be taken pretty poorly. It's the same in Overwatch, right? You don't like being rooted. You don't like being slowed. You definitely don't like if anything messes with your sensitivity. So I think the bigger problem was that was what her gadget did. If her gadget just made a loud ass noise, I don't think anyone would ever complain about it. It's the fact that you feel like you're walking in jelly, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't that there was 3 of them. It goes back to this one thing that you remember that you were stuck in it and then you died, and it was the gadget's fault you died.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not the gadget on the other stairs. Because you chose to go up red stairs instead of main stairs. It was that one that made you die, and now you're angry at Melusi. It's the same. It doesn't matter if it was the first, second, or third lion scan you died to. Right? Like, you're angry that you died to the lion scan. Not the 3 people who tried to wallbang you with the drone that was also coming for you, but it was the lion scan that did it. When we talked to Lana about the frustration versus what was it? What is it they call it? Frustration versus balance, or I can't remember what the term was, but like there's factual statistical data, right? Like, is this thing too strong? Like, can we measure that it's too strong? And then there is, this feels horrible to play against. Right. And both of them can be equally right and still be completely opposite. I think it can be way too weak but horrendous to play against, or I think it can be way too strong but completely fine.
Yeah. Like, I mean, honestly, I would say that right now the perfect example of that is Clash. I don't think Clash is too strong by any means, but I also don't really mind a Clash ban. You know what I mean? Like, like, she feels awful to play against.
Blackbeard is the perfect example right now. Blackbeard is getting banned on TS.
Bro.
And do you have any idea how bad he is now? You can one-shot the shield in spawn with a shotgun.
Okay.
It's insane.
Okay. Yeah. You got me at a weird time with Blackbeard.
Okay, fair enough.
Because normally I agree with you, but holy cow, how is he not on the list of operators that need a rework? Like, how?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I mean, like, how are 5 years later and 27 nerfs later, how are we still playing a first-person shooter with a one-shot head mechanic with an operator that has a shield that covers their face?
So I'll take that fight. Have you've played CS, right?
Yes, briefly. Very briefly.
Not every gun one-shots there.
Not every gun, right?
All right, so it depends on where you are in your economy in CS whether you can one-shot or not.
Right.
So you can easily be up against someone where you have to shoot twice in the head and they only have to shoot once. I'm pretty sure it's the same in Valorant.
Yeah.
It's definitely the same in every arena shooter. So, the defense we have in Siege, because Siege isn't a one-shot headshot game. I actually we had a little bit of discussion about. So it was more like, I guess it comes down to like it's pretty petty at the end of the day because it's the wording. Siege is not a one-shot headshot game. It has a damage multiplier for headshots, right? A headshot is not guaranteed to kill. Right? Depending on how much you shoot through, depending on what you shoot with, you can shoot someone in the head and not get a kill. It is extremely rare.
Right.
But Twitch drones, Maestro cams, like all gadgets like that, right? They don't instantly kill. If you take a pistol and we run to like the furthest away you can be in, like, it'll never happen in game.
Right.
But the mechanic in Siege is that there is a multiplier set to when you hit a headshot, you get like a massive damage boost. The time to kill is low enough, and the examples that are being brought up when people say, "Ooh, it was because it was Blackbeard," and people like, painting the whole wall with bullets, and they hit the shield once. Because you hit the shield like at the side doesn't mean it would have been a headshot. I get it, it's frustrating, but so are shields, right? So are traps. The idea that I'm forced to look down to shoot a frost trap while vaulting into a window is not much different than me being forced to look at Blackbeard's body instead of his head. In terms of like the unfairness of the gunfight. The thing is now, where he was 2 shots to the shield with most guns. Some could one-shot it, and then you had the headshot. Then we have the whole argument with, in my opinion, and I stand by it. If you peek Blackbeard, you win. If you do it right. If Blackbeard peeks you, you should win. If he's holding an angle and you run past it, and you have to react to it, you're probably going to lose. Because the chance that you turn around and get the shield and all that, and it's annoying, because when you break the shield, you felt like if it was another operator, you would have killed him. But his shield is like 4 heads wide, right? It's massive compared to him. Now, if I quick peek a hallway and hip fire a shotgun down that hallway, I will insta-break his shield. My problem with Blackbeard is that if I don't think he's overpowered. I don't think he's too strong. And I don't care about the win delta, because the way that the community looks at that is absolute bullshit. They only ever pick the ones they want nerfed or buffed, and they always use the win delta as the argument. But they never do it for the ones that are just in between, that feel fine to play, right? So the things that you don't like that are high, they're like, oh yeah, look at the win delta. Oh, no, it's gotta go. But no one is asking for Ash to still be nerfed, right? Very few are asking for Jaeger to still be nerfed. So it's very picky.
Right. You use it to fill your narrative.
Yes. It's very difficult to look at that one and use it without all the context. And we are all, we're all doing that, and we shouldn't. I think they should rework him, just because if people don't like him as he is, then rework him with the reason of it being he's frustrating to play against.
Yes. Okay. I don't disagree.
I'm completely good with that.
I don't disagree.
But don't nerf him to the point where he has what he has and it isn't worth.
Well, I think that's where he's at right now. I do. I think
where he's at for.
I think that right now they're putting him into blitz territory, where he's going to be frustrating to play as and against, because even if it only stops 1 bullet, there's a chance that it's going to stop 1 bullet, you're going to die, and you're going to blame his shield. Whether you hit the side or the face, you're still going to blame it. And then when you're playing as him, it's going to disintegrate immediately. You're going to die and be like, what's the point of this operator if he doesn't, So I think that they're putting him into no man's land right now. And again, I think if it's 5 years later, 27 nerfs later, and we're still nerfing this guy, maybe he should be on the docket for a rework ahead of a Goyo or...
No, like I'm with you, but on the other hand, and like this has nothing to do with like me having played BB at all. Like I don't really care. I don't never play BB anymore at all. It was only for comp, and it was a role. It was a job. But this idea, like the thing that happened with Blitz and the thing that's happening with BB now, in my opinion, is not the way to go. Keep them useful until you change them. Putting them into this Shadowland where there's no, like, he's taking up a ban that does nothing. People are banning him, but no one wants to play him, and the people that play him never get any kills. They're never doing well. You're never seeing the guy running Blackbeard in rank being the one fragging out. It is the worst player on the team that's doing it. Hell, it was the worst player on the team that was doing it when I played comp with him. Like, it takes up a ban slot that makes no sense just because people hate playing against so much. Right?
Yeah.
Change it for that reason, but keep it in until.
I agree with what you're saying as far as us using the win delta to fulfill our narrative. However, if I'm King Rainbow Six Siege, the last operator on attack that I want at the top of my win delta is Blackbeard. Like, come on. You know what I mean? We're playing a first-person shooter, and I have an operator in my game that has a face shield and can be protected from headshots while I'm firing full auto at you, and I look at my win delta, and he's at the top of it. Like, I agree. The wind delta doesn't mean everything, but I would have the same reaction. I'd be like, get him out of there. Get him out of there. Anybody else? I don't care if Blitz is up there, but I do not want Blackbeard at the top of my wind delta.
So wait, why is he at the top now? Because he hasn't been before.
Well, right? Do you remember when we've had Matthew on? Blackbeard always has the highest KD as far as his weapons. You know what I mean? And
Nook.
And Nook, yes, and that plays into the fact that it's the gadget, not the weapon, and all that stuff.
Also, you constantly look for a gunfight and you have nothing else to do, right? Like that's probably why actually Nook and Blackbeard has the highest, because you have nothing to do but shoot. So you're never off, like you never get caught with your gadget out. But so Blackbeard went from another thing we got to remember. Let me compare here, is that some of the wind deltas, because I just opened up a bunch of them. They like the width scales, right? So that's a little dangerous. But Blackbeard used to be at only a little over 2% wind delta, which is still high. This was in year 5, season 2.3, and then in year 6, season 1 wind deltas. So the stat for this was year 5, season 4.3. He went up to above a 3.0. And he went to a higher pick rate. But why did he skyrocket?
Because not to be completely conceited, but is it partly because we've had Matthew on the podcast how many times? We have educated people on the fact that like Blackbeard, when you're talking from a fragging standpoint, is somebody who statistically frags out better than other operators.
No. But why did he go up?
That's what I'm saying. It's like maybe we're opening people's eyes to, hey, Blackbeard can frag out.
I don't believe for a second that the number of our podcasts has impacted that at all, especially not at higher.
Probably not.
I refuse to believe that. But this is platinum above on PC.
Right, but is it okay? One wind delta comes out and Blackbeard's inched up a little bit, and then people are like, holy shit, Blackbeard's up here. Like maybe
he jumped a lot.
Yeah, maybe, but like, is it gradual over time, or was it one season to the next?
It's a percent in less than a season, or in a season, like a percent on the wind delta. It's pretty much.
Didn't they buff his MK17 in there? No. Well, no. Maybe.
I think it's the Blitz thing. I don't know if this is true. I think there is a higher chance that, first off, with Smurfs being more Smurfs, I think there's a lot of people running this just to shit on people on the way up.
Could be.
I know that a decent amount of the people that we end up meeting that I then end up seeing getting banned or playing, it gives them that extra, second or half second in a gunfight. I think it has more to do with some of these operators are being picked more by certain people than I don't know anyone that plays Blackbeard in ranked on purpose. I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
No one picks it. They're like, it's so rare that we see it, and whenever we see it, they always lose. Like, I almost never see a BB in high elo do well. That's the thing.
The only time I play BB is when the other team played him first.
Yeah, that's the NA thing. Oh, you bring this? I'm gonna bring it. I just find it funny that he is climbing the way that he did after the nerf. So like Blitz, right? It used to be, when is this from? This is from year 5, season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Blitz was at a 4% win delta, but a very low pick rate. Blackbeard is still, he's actually only just in the positive in pick rate right now.
Yeah.
Whereas the season before, he was picked less than Twitch, and only just a little bit more than Monty, and only just a little bit more than Amaru. So we've seen him like jump to getting picked quite a lot more and winning about 1, or having a win delta percent increased by 1. That's a pretty big increase, man. Like,
it is. It is
a substantial one.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, okay, so
everything else fell. Everything else fell.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
But it's just an interesting thing for the ones that are like. So this isn't like Blackbeard is a good operator. He should probably be changed. I completely agree with that. But before people start looking at this or using their anecdotal stories, consider why he's there. I don't know why.
Yeah,
but it's not as clear cut as people think.
The case that I would make for changing him isn't win delta as much as clearly he's highly frustrating, and they're having a hard time getting him in a spot that they're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So let's just think about a new idea for Blackbeard.
A spot the players are comfortable with.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, sure.
Well, do you have any idea? What can you do with him?
So, have you played Rogue Company at all?
I don't think so.
There's an operator in that game who he puts down a deployable shield, and it has a mirror window in it, and so it's a bulletproof. Well, it's bulletproof, but it has an HP. So if you on the other team you shoot it enough, it'll completely destroy it. And he can choose to drop the mirror window. So I as Blackbeard could be picture me like walking down the hall or in a retake situation. I put down a deployable shield. It has a mirror window in it, and I can choose to open it or not. I don't know. That's off the top of my head here. I don't really know.
I'm terrified.
I've heard some people say just reverse his shield so that you cover a piece of his body. The headshot would still be an instant kill, but he would block, maybe his torso is blocked by the shield. I wouldn't put it all the way down to his feet. I think that would end up being maybe even more frustrating.
It also look weird. What do you do?
It would look super weird. I don't know. Maybe the Blackbeard rework would be that you play on his name as a pirate and he can steal one of the defender's gadgets. I don't know. I'm the captain now.
I like the idea of like what he was supposed to be. Like I assume they kind of looked at like a turret from a Hummer or something, right? With the armor plates. And if we go back and we watch like I think this was actually one of the E3 trailers originally when he had like the armored metal plates.
Yeah.
Like I'm for that. It's a different thing. It's something that makes that operator. Everyone else has, Sledge has his hammer. It's cool. Maybe give him what he has, but make it so it covers the side completely. I still think there should be see-through, but literally give him like almost undestroyable plates on the side of his gun, and then leave a gap in the center. So at least if he's shooting you, you can shoot him.
Yeah, he's protected from the side angle though.
And it's still going to be busted strong going through a door because no one's going to one tap you in the head as you go through, right?
Yeah,
they have to body shot you, and then you have a chance to turn. But right now, like, wouldn't you agree that you'd rather, if you're in a 1v1, you'd rather play against the Blackbeard than an Ash, right? In most situations.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I do.
I'm more afraid of the fragging operators than I am of any of the like annoying operators. Like
especially, I think the bigger nerf for him, in my opinion, and I know this sounds strange because his shield is his thing, but the bigger nerf is moving his gun down to 40 damage. 40 damage for an attacker weapon. That is really bad.
Yep.
I mean, what does Jaeger's carbine do? It's in the 40s, right? It's like 40, it's like 46 or something like that. I don't know.
As well, Jaeger's gun, right? Isn't it like 38 now or?
Maybe it is. But I'm just saying, like 40, the damage model of 40 for an attacker slow fire. That MK17 is a slow firing rate weapon. That's going to make a difference.
Yeah, and then you got to remember the recoil without a shield on that thing.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah, so we'll see. Let's talk about the attacker repick. This isn't something that's in the test server, but this is something that they announced that is really, really interesting. So if you haven't heard, what's that?
Can we do Nuke first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just before I forget. So I'm really against that one.
Okay.
The Nuke buff. I'll lay out the explanation. I think we talked with Pirate about it as well. But for me, it was the idea of being able to trust your gadget. Right now, even with a mute buff, I'm fine with a mute buff. If I put down an air jab, I know that an air jab can be shot, right? If a mute jammer goes down, I can see the sparkling effect. That's cool. the idea that Nook can walk up and through a Capcan trap, past the Melusi, through a beep boop, through a metal detector, through an L mine, and then shoot me, when I have maybe given my team shit for, remember, place at this there, do a this there, and we're thinking, okay, we don't have to constantly check because we know there should be an audio queue. This idea of implementing not being able to trust your gadgets, I am really against. Because everything else we have in Siege, there are indicators. With an ADS, I can see if it's fired, if it's ready to fire. If a wall is banded and it gets EMP'd, I can see that they're turned off. So I know when I can trust gadgets. That terrifies me. I think something as small as just making it so when she gets within range of some of those things, they make a sound. They won't activate. But
like a little bzz sound.
It is not cool to have her be able to walk past. Like, she can walk through the whole VIP hallway with a Banshee in the middle, an Elamine hidden a perfect spot up in the ceiling, and a beep boop. And no one will know, and you won't even see on the camera. That makes the people who do the job that you don't want to do not fun. You're running around, right, like playing Goblin Siege, and then you have two people that are trying to be nice and anchor and keep the team together. Their job just fucking sucks now. And I'm fine with everything that deals with all the people sprinting around everywhere and gets a kink in that wheel. But I don't like that the people that are advocating for Ash mains need to get a brain are also the ones that are fighting for Nook to be busted in terms of just walking inside.
Right.
I am so against the idea of that, and I really hope that it doesn't make it to live unless we get some sort of an indicator. With Vigil, I get the fuss, right? Like, if I drone, I get an indicator that there's something there. I can't see him. There's a warning. Nook, nothing.
Okay. I understand your concern, and after playing her on the test server, she is crazy strong on the test server. I was playing her today. I was on stream. So I came up on New Border. I came up the east stairs, walked. There was an Ella that was by top metal. I walked the entire length of that hallway with my gadget. The camera was on the whole time. I was invisible. Came and shot the Ella. As soon as my gadget worn out, boom, an Ella mine went off. Meaning that I think she had it like at the top of 90 or something. That's crazy. Like, it's crazy strong. And if Nook goes to a high pick rate, it will be frustrating. No doubt about it. I think that there is a middle ground here. And I think it may be what you mentioned as far as it making some type of a sound in one way or another could be a good way to go. Here's what I would say. I would rather see them, Capcan traps continue to go off. Ella mines continue to go off. I would rather see her be able to get past goo mines and Banshee charges. And I know that doesn't make sense logistically, but we're taking the defenders that are super meta, because all this is going to do, well, no, I shouldn't say all this is going to do, but one indirect effect from this is that Legion is an even better pick on defense now, because Legion is that one thing that she can't get by without making a noise.
But wouldn't it be nicer?
So I would leave Ella, let Ella counter her, let Capcan counter her, Barbed Wire counter her, let her bypass Melusi Banshees, goo mines, and proximity alarms.
My problem it's not the balance though. Like, that's the thing. Think about this from the Ella's perspective in that fight. She did everything right, except, and someone was on cam for her as well, right?
Yeah.
Someone was on a cam. She had an Ella mine out. She was ready. The only thing she didn't do was she didn't second guess and check her work, because she shouldn't. She had an Ella mine. There's a guy on cam. If you need to look at it as well, then why do we have people on cam? If you already need to look down a hallway to make sure Nook isn't walking down there, why are we even caring about placing traps? And then you can say, okay, well, it's only one operator. Yes, but the fact that that one operator exists and could be picked means that you have to take it serious, right?
Yeah.
You have to consider that it can happen. The same when I throw a smoke as an attacker, I have to be damn sure they don't have a warden.
Right.
Like I gotta know. If I try to roam clear as an attacker, I gotta be sure they don't have a cav.
Right.
The problem is that I think you're gonna end up with Melusi traps placed, Kapkan traps placed, whatever, like a decent setup, and you have to check anyway. That's what I don't like.
I agree with your concern, and I definitely think that it's very possible that what you're saying will turn into a reality. I think that maybe where I differ from you is I'm okay with them trying it. And
Oh yeah, I'm fine with them
okay.
trying.
I'm okay after playing it in a test server, and I know the test servers are not a good representation. I'm okay with them bringing it into live server. I would suggest some tweaks. I absolutely would. But I guess this is where in a perfect world, we could bring this to the live server, and if it's a problem, they'll address it. Like, and they won't take 10 months to do it. But,
yeah, so I like at the end of the day, if they bring it or not, I'm still gonna play, and it's not gonna change anything. I'm just gonna play Nook more. That's
right.
Right. If they put something out and I think it's busted, I'm gonna play it. Because I will never look at I'll never take like the I'm too good to play this one. Like if they put something out that I think I can win more with, I'm damn well playing that. That's the point. But the same issue I have with the Runegates, and I hope that we see something happening with that at one point, because now I've seen it happen. I've seen rounds be impossible to win no matter what because of a Runegate. There is no way to remove it, do anything about it. And I just don't like that mechanic. What I find like a bit hypocritical is that a lot of the people that are saying that this is a great change, because like that's not what you're saying. Saying it's interesting and maybe there's some tweaks, but there's a lot of people that are like, like really for the Nook change, and yeah, this is amazing. But they're the same people that complain about in rushing Ash. This is the only thing this Nook change is pushing towards, is you can walk into sight with no one seeing you. And you also have grenades. And you have a good gun.
Yeah.
But the FMG isn't the R4C. Oh, but it has a 1.5 times. And statistically does really, really, really well. Right?
It's capable. It's definitely capable.
It's an okay gun.
Yeah.
So that's my only fear, is that we're creating a character that we don't actually want to play against. And then I think a couple months down, people are gonna, they're gonna change their mind and be like, oh, this needs to be changed. So I'd rather be aware of it now, because if we give that feedback now, there's time to change it or have something ready by the time that we realize it's a little bit scary.
And here's a ripple effect that isn't necessarily Nook's fault, but again, it's a ripple effect. So okay, the Gone 6 is introduced now. All this stuff that help with utility clears comes. So let's say the attacker composition does get freed up, and now operators like Nook that you couldn't justify before make more sense now. On top of a buff that's coming, a big buff. That could be a perfect storm for, the slip of a switch goes off and all of a sudden Nook has a 70% pick rate and people are furious about it. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you have to kind of keep an eye on all this stuff.
Yeah, and we're going to see less deployable shields, right? There's some operators that are going to fall a bit out of meta because of some changes there. So I'd rather just be like, I just want people to think about it.
Right. I agree.
It's not a no rioting, no panic. Like, it isn't going to magically overnight make it unplayable. Not at all. But it's a small little thing that just people need to be aware of, like, where it could go. Sure. And into, was it attacker repick? You were...
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's going to be insane. Like, I'm so hyped for that.
Yeah. I really get the sense that they are... I think it's safe to say that they are really going and making an effort to try to give attackers more tools. I think that might be a fair way to word it. Yep. And I really like this aspect of it. We've talked before about how an attacker favored meta would probably not be very enjoyable. I think this is one of those things though that they can do that really makes sense to me, and it might not feel oppressive. We haven't played it
I
yet.
agree.
It's not in the test server, but it is
Well,
something that I'm excited to try.
the worst case scenario is that you end up playing against the correct attacker lineup.
Right.
Worst case scenario. Right?
Let me throw my worst fear out. Well, not my worst fear. This is the biggest casualty of this, in my opinion. As a defender, I was always somebody who really enjoyed, hey, let's go to the off meta site first, see if we can catch them without hard breach, see if we can catch them without, a sledge or something. And I liked that. If you did that and you caught them without it, you were rewarded for it. I thought that was a cool aspect of the game, and I hate to see that go.
I'm on the exact same page, except I think that the offsite. So I thought the exact same thing when I heard it originally, but I've kind of changed my mind because for the attackers to know all of this, they have to risk their drones. And
True.
if they have to get their drones in and really figure out, okay, they might know the site, right? They might know all the operators, but at that point, you should have been getting some drones if you're doing it right. You would already have done, like if you were playing a bar defense on old Clubhouse, because I remember we've done that in comp. We would pick bar, and the whole idea was that you try to shoot as many drones as possible, so you really disrupt it. And the team had to make a plan in those 30 seconds of prep phase.
Yeah.
Now they have to make a plan. They have to choose their operators. There's still a lot of confusion going on, and they have to gamble some of their drones as well, right?
Yeah.
If they want to get that info, and if they then also want to figure out if you're roaming, it almost seems more like you have a choice of, I'm gonna pick this operator, and then I'm gonna hope that my two teammates figure out where the bomb site is, maybe some info. But not everyone want to use their prep drone to yeet it into the building, right? Like you need some flank drones set up and stuff like that. So the worst case scenario is that they bring the correct lineup, which should be great, because that means that as a defender, you get, and sure, it's about winning, so you of course hope the other team fucks up. But at the end of the day, it's much more fun to have a good fourth and back, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm playing a site, while I find it hilarious if they didn't bring a heart breacher and we're basement and consulate, I love it, right? Like it's hilarious. We caught them off guard. The game is ultimately a little bit better when it's played with two matching lineups.
Sure.
And it's still slightly more defender favored either way. I just think this is one way where they can tweak 1 or 2% in a certain direction for attackers without buffing the attackers unnecessary. Because it is about the setup, the defense, how you play around the site. If you buff the attackers too much, it's just going to be like a steam truck just rolling through everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's not fun for anyone, because that feels oppressive for the defenders. Not fun. You want some sort of freedom. You want some choice. And this also means that now you can pick off meta operators.
Yes.
Because before I couldn't pick Fuse if they were top floor on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are 2 windows I can use it on, and I will die if I do. That's it. But if they're basement, I love it. Like I can go up to logistics office and I can fuse the kitchen, and it kills the pulse in armory without him even knowing. Like that I can do with an attacker repick without selling out on my team. I don't have to wait until they won a site to take my off. Like I'm already down. I'm down bad, right? Like we've already lost the site, and now I want to try the out of meta thing.
Yeah.
That's not the ideal way. Like I should be able to win a round and then get a drone in and go, ooh, I want to try this for the attack, right? And then you can make an educated choice on it, because the defenders get that. The defenders get the decision of where they want to be and what operators they want to bring for it. And then the attackers had to gamble, often out of 4 different places. Sure, there's 2 that are way more likely than every other, and normally it doesn't change a lot. There's some places where it's really nice to have 3 heart breaches. And there's some where it's pretty much useless having any. Right?
Yeah. I think the Clubhouse example you made right there was perfect. And that's what I'm most excited about, is like right now you fall in the reason why the attacker line, one of the reasons the attacker lineup has gotten so stale in this game is because you bring these operators who will work in every scenario. You know, those operators are the ones that are going to be favored because as an attacker, whether they're top floor or bottom floor, you're going to get some use out of them. Clubhouse, perfect example. You know, if they're top floor, bringing in Ash makes a lot of sense because you can go underneath, shoot the floor out, get rid of the bandits on the main wall or whatever. Okay, and there's lots of other ways to do that. I'm just giving an example. But when they're down below and Ash doesn't make as much sense there, you can sub that out for a fuse or something like that. That's what I'm most excited for with this. I think as somebody who hates Valkyrie, I think droning out a Valkyrie and then switching to IQ, I'm excited about
That's
that.
gonna be your biggest joy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's because that's one thing. Like, you know, people have always said, just bring IQ, just bring IQ. And granted, I'm not trying to sit here and say that IQ is by any means a waste of a pick or anything like that. But like, there are times when you feel like you would be better off on a different operator, you know. But if you can drone out a Valkyrie and say, okay, I'm bringing IQ, perfect.
Well, like you actually hitting spot on there. There are, let's say it's not as much anymore, but there were times in comp where if Valkyrie wasn't banned, the attacker had to bring IQ. There are certain maps where you bring IQ if Valk isn't banned because you have to, right? That sucks. Like, because if they don't bring Valk, then like, sure, you can still do something with her, but you could have had something else,
right?
And especially for comp, like for spectator sport, hopefully this is gonna make the attacks way more stylized and different from team to team, because now like your team can have very specific strat that relies on it being a certain site where it's these operators that deal with it, and they can risk that, right? Like they can bring a Capital or Fuse, whatever, because they know where the site is and they can plan around it. And they're not going to look like morons on a broadcast because they brought a fuse for a top floor and got stuck. Like that's I love it. I'm super excited about it. I get why people are freaking out. It's a massive change, but I think if we just let it play out, I think this will be a better way of playing Siege than what we've had.
So one of the major concerns I've heard is, how does this work with Twitch? Did you understand exactly how that's going to work? I know it was explained.
Yeah. So you start with a normal drone no matter what.
Right.
Once you log in to your operator will spawn with the gadgets they have. So when you spawn in as Twitch, you have your drones in your pocket and you can throw them.
Will you still have the first drone?
You will still have the original.
So a little bit of a buff to Twitch.
Yeah.
But that's okay. With Flores having 4, I think you can make the case for Twitch. It's okay.
Yeah, and also you got to remember that this is still with everyone. So it doesn't matter if you were to choose Twitch or you were to choose someone else. It's still your one prep drone, right? Sure, if you go with Twitch, you then have 2 of them. But if you went with anyone else, you would also still have 1 extra drone outside of your prep drone. And you can also argue that it's a slight nerf, because it means that as Twitch, you can't remove any cameras in the prep phase. Then arguably, if you're removing cameras in the prep phase, they know you have a Twitch, so then you've given that away. But you can't sneak a Twitch drone in and sap a mirror window in the prep phase.
Right.
So is that a bit of a buff to Mira or to Kaid? To mute, right? Like now you can set up and you do not have to worry about anything during the prep phase. True. You just have to worry about normal drones. You're never gonna put down a mirror window in the basement of bank, run over and do the rotate hole because all your teammates are just ready to spawn peek, and just hear that depressing as your mirror window pops. That won't happen. So maybe it's a buff to Twitch, but I think it's quality of life improvement to everyone in terms of prep phase. Because I don't care what people say. I love sapping shit as a Twitch and prep phase. But there's nothing worse than trying to be helpful on the team and then having your gadgets get destroyed while being busy setting something else up.
Yeah.
Because you don't have enough time.
Yeah. Yeah. let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about being able to go on drone after death. That was also something that was announced. So it's
Yeah.
not just that. Okay, so the first question I had was, can anybody go on anybody's drone? And that's not the case. So as an attacker, whenever I'm dead, I can get on any of my drones that are alive, and I can still drive and ping on them.
Yeah.
All right. I can't get on my teammate's drone. I'm guessing I can still spectate, but I can't drive them anywhere. So that
Yeah.
answered one.
That's my understanding that you. So when you say you can't get on the drone, you can get on any drone, but you can only control your own.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's the way I understand it. I did
That's fine.
ask a dev about the driving part because I was concerned. Hey, if I set up a flank drone, am I going to have a troll teammate that drives it outside?
Yeah,
And
Mello
he answered
clarified
that
that
question.
one. You
Yeah.
can only drive your own drones. And I do believe that when you die, if you have a drone in your pocket, it drops on the ground.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay. That's interesting.
I'm
Then
pretty
on
sure
the
that's how it
defense
works.
side, Maestro and Evil Eye can control their gadgets after death as well. So,
Yes.
or Maestro and Echo.
Yes.
So
And
Echo
Moss.
can drive his yokai drones. Maestro can control his Evil Eyes and still shoot and zap with them. That's my understanding.
And
What
Mozzie.
are your thoughts there?
Well, I don't like the idea of a roaming Maestro with 81 bullets going brrr down a hallway. I don't like the idea of a Echo being picked for the argument that, oh well, if I die I still have my Echo drones. I hate the logic behind that because I know that people will do that. That doesn't mean that things shouldn't be that way just because some people will abuse it. But to have people pick something because the excuse is that, oh well, I still did something or I can still do something if I die is kind of meh. And on the other hand, I guess the fear is that if I'm in a 1v1, I'd really like to be in a 1v1.
That's my concern. Can you? Okay, so I'm picturing myself here. Here's my number one fear with this right now. I'm a defender and I'm in a 1v1. It's potentially there could be 8 drones that I have to get rid of in that 1v1. Right? Maybe. Well, actually, technically 10.
It could be
Technically
much.
10.
It could be much worse. You could be in a 1v1 against Lesion. You could step in a goo mine and you could have an Echo juggle. So this is completely hypothetical and it's never going to happen, but just to give people nightmares. You step in a goo mine. As you try to pick out this goo mine, you get Echo droned, so it resets. You're still taking goo mine damage.
Yeah.
You now have to decide, am I going to try to pick it out again? Or am I going to shoot the Echo drone? Or am I going to shoot for the player? Whatever decision you make is probably the wrong one.
Right.
And while all of this is going on, there could be a Maestro Cam sapping you while you're in a goo mine. So you have to shoot the Maestro Cam. But you also have to pull out the goo mine, or you die. Both of those are death, right? And on top of all of this, there's a player alive that can peek you at any given time. And
is getting perfect information, probably red pings.
Yeah, you might as well red ping because you can't do anything about it. If you decide to shoot the Maestro Cam, he peeks. If you decide to pull the goo mine, you get echoed and sapped, and he peeks. If you decide to shoot the Echo drone, then shoot the Maestro Cam, then pull the goo mine out, well, you know what? Fuck, there's another Maestro Cam, another Echo drone, another goo mine.
Yeah.
On top of that, all of a sudden you have an Aruna Gate, and you have no gadgets to use. If we're talking about things being frustrating, me in a 1v1 against the Melusi, like a gadget that doesn't do anything by itself, right? It activates, sure, but it can't chase me, right? If I walk away from that gadget, it's gonna stay over there. Me in a 1v1 against a Maestro right now, if he starts sapping me, that means, oof, he is sitting somewhere and he's on cam. And if I shoot that cam, I will get an audio cue of him getting off cam. So it's a massive risk for him using his cam, right? Same with an Echo, because you can hear him shuffle. Like, I don't know if people are think about that, but we take like basement and clubhouse. If I'm in Armory and I shoot the Echo drone, I can hear if he's in church or in blue when I shoot the Echo drone, right? If it's a 1v1 and people aren't loud and you have your audio up, I can tell what room he's in after shooting the Echo drone. that's quite a good trade for getting stunned ones. But that situation is gonna be horrendous. Then the defense is that the attackers have their drones.
I think that's much more realistic. Like what you said right there is absolutely a nightmare. But what I think is extremely realistic is that me as a defender, I'm going to be in a 1v1 and I'm going to have to deal with at least 3 or 4 drones red pinging me in that 1v1 or spotting me or distracting me or whatever. That and I hate to see that because that 1v1 scenario, like those are the siege moments.
Yes.
Those are the moments that people love this game for. And I don't want to see those moments turn into just pure frustration and helplessness.
I don't think so. So I'm so 50-50 about this. It's so difficult without knowing. Like I'm keeping 100% open mind until we've tried it, but I'm very on the fence of this is probably not ideal. But as we talked about in the start, that people have to be super picky with their drones and prep phase, right? If they lose those, then it's not that dangerous because they still have to drone their first room or they're probably gonna die. Right? If they just walk in without droning, that's not ideal. So often during a game, you'll end up shooting 6-7 drones anyway. You still need some drones on flank. So you can't have all the drones hunting. Plus, let's say I'm full on goblin. I drone in, my drone dies. Start of prep. I pick my operator. I go in, I throw my next drone, get shot, I die. Now I'm not doing anything more, right? I can sit on flank drone. Other scenarios, I peek in, I get the kill, and maybe 2 drones drop, or maybe 1 drone drop. I don't know. Maybe they're gonna set a limit so you can only use 1 drone when you die or something like that. So you can't just keep like leapfrogging them up or something. But how many people are, actively droning and willing to when they're alive? Then like when you're dead, you have nothing else to do. But I think that's a nice thing because if you're solo queuing or if you're duo queuing or something like that, having an incentive for people to not tab out when they die and actually still be part of the game, I'm all for that.
Yes.
I'm all for keeping people engaged and having something to do because let's not lie, like we all hate being on cams when we're dead, right?
Yeah.
It sucks. But if I can drone for someone, that's another 10, 15, 20 seconds of something exciting. And you still have to dodge some stuff here and there, but it feels like you're part of the game still. Instead of just, being the guy who fucked up and has to tell if anyone's coming up the garage stairs. So on that aspect, I'm super sold. It's gonna be fun. But there are just some nightmare scenarios that I can think of as well. That, oh my god, like imagine you're in a 2v1 and on defense you could have had a really good chance, right? You could have had good Valkyrie cams, maybe both of them are low or something. And now 2 drones come in. Before I would have been able to know that, well, they're both droning. So I can shoot a drone and make a play. You can't do that anymore. Right?
Yeah.
That's the fear, is that if I see a drone, I don't know if it's the player or a dead guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Or maybe change the color on them. Honestly,
maybe
I would really like that. If drones from dead players had a different color.
Yeah, and maybe
make some noise as well. Make them twice as loud.
Maybe get rid of yellow ping. In all honesty,
yeah.
I don't know. That's my biggest concern. That's what I'll say. What else from year 6 are we missing here? I feel like there was other things. We talked about the BB nerf, Flores
rework, Melusi rework.
Border. Oh, here, let's talk about this. Okay, let's go a little bit negative here because I think this has to be said. No new maps announced for year 6. That means we will go a full 3 years without a new map in this game. Last new map was Outback. That was year 4, season 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's I don't think that's a good thing. Okay. So listen, I've always been on the board of one of the toughest roadblocks for new players in this game are learning the maps. The fewer maps we have in the game, the more new friendly that is, and the least amount of time that's going to take for new players to get at least competent on the maps that are in the pool. However, 3 years without a new map, I don't think that's the play, man. And now, when we look at the roadmap, where we have the border rework, next season is a favela rework, which is a casual rework. Nothing against it. I mean, fine, casual rework. Who cares? Okay, but then the next season they're talking 3 smaller reworks, and then the 4th season we're talking an Outback rework.
What do you think they mean about the smaller rework? Do you think like consulate style, where it's kind of one extra bomb site or some change, or are we thinking like canal type, or not canal, cafe type of?
Well, I would be more inclined to say that we're looking at a consulate type thing, because to be honest with you, I mean, border isn't like a crazy rework, and don't get me wrong, I love the border rework, but I would compare border to the cafe rework personally.
Yeah, border fixed. I mean, it's the same with Clubhouse though, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. Yeah,
but I will say that one good thing with these type of reworks is that people that I know that play but don't play a lot can come back, and they know enough that
yes,
they're not like, what the hell is this?
Completely agree. I don't want a new map every season.
No.
I'll straight up say that.
I
think one new map a year.
Yes, I'm with you, and that makes sense. I would prefer if we never got new maps. I know that sounds, and I still want like a oil rig map. I really want that. But like coming from CS and being okay with playing the same 5 maps for 10 years, and like we are so sloppy in Siege in terms of like how well we actually learn the maps, with how complicated they are, with all the destruction there is. 90% of the player base, and I'm sure I'm gonna get scolded for this because clearly everyone knows the maps, but they don't, right? Like there are new angles being found every month on maps that are old, right? Well, probably every week. Sure, some of them are not that useful, but we still get surprised on the daily about something. I enjoy the new map. I really enjoy getting a new map because it's something new to learn and break down, and it's a new puzzle. But I also don't want to get to a point where we just want new operators, we just want new maps, and eventually it becomes more about having more content than it does about the content that we have being good. So I don't think the maps are getting bad because we're not getting more. That's
right. I don't think that either.
But I like the idea of, let's get all the maps reworked to a point where we're kind of happy with where they're at, especially with some of the new operators that come in that kind of changes some of the maps. I really don't care about casual reworks. I just don't. I don't play that part of the game. For the ones that do, I'm happy they get it. Like, it doesn't take anything away from me. I don't think there's some magic thing there where if they remake House, well, then they couldn't do something else, right? Like, it doesn't take away from anything. It just adds to that. So I guess the same stance I have on mouse and keyboard and console. Like, if they fix it, I'm so happy for them. But it doesn't, like, I don't really care, right? Because when I log into play, it doesn't matter to me. Just like if you're a console player, you're probably not that worried about aimbutters on PC. But I don't know, like, I'd rather there are some things in Siege that are just not good enough. The ranking system is horrendous. It's just not good enough. The anti-cheat, barrier to entry, smurfing, whatever you want to call it, that whole system is just a bad experience. There are some bugs, some inconsistencies, some server degradation that is annoying, right? There's some random bugs that happen with operators. I'd rather all of that becomes the main focus and we get everything as polished as possible. before a new map is introduced or a new operator or any of that. And it's not even like I don't care about getting another Operation Health. I'm not even close to there. Um, but I don't really want to be asking for new stuff if I'm hoping that the energy is being spent on changing what we have to get that polished. And I don't want to be trying to push towards go make new stuff. If that makes sense.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on a personal level. But I think on like I don't think PR is the right way, but maybe like on a marketing level, I think it's important that we get new maps. And
Pre-release Glacier done.
I think that you have to look at like, so when this game was really exploding in popularity, I go back to like year 2 after Operation Health, like through year 3 is really whenever like it exploded. And you think about like as a console player, okay, at that time, not only did you have people like Nadeshot streaming it and stuff like that, but we were getting a ton of content. Like, remember, after Operation Health, we were getting 3 new operators per season plus a new map. And it was that way through year 3, right? Think about Operation Parabellum. Dude, Operation Parabellum, Maestro, Alibi, Villa, Clubhouse, Bulletproof cameras. Like, that's so much content in a season, man.
Yeah,
and like now, and think about Neon Dawn, where like a Rooney, cool. Skyscraper rework, cool. I'm exaggerating there, okay?
But, no, you're right. But we're gonna get to a point of diminishing return, and we're adding.
You can't do that forever,
right?
Yes.
Imagine if Dota added like 4 new characters every.
Yes. I completely agree with you. You cannot do that. That is not sustainable. Keep in mind that was really hard on the pro players. 3 new operators per season trying to adjust to that meta. Like it was there were problems with it, okay?
Yeah, there was problems with it.
I think from a marketing perspective, we have the Christmas lull in Siege, and the Christmas lull is only going to get worse for Siege as time goes on. People are going to go to do that shiny new object, whether that's Cyberpunk, the new Call of Duty, the new Battlefield. They're going to play that over the holiday season. And then sometime around the Invitational, maybe they're tired of those games and they're ready to come back. Okay. Let's give a big reason for them to come back by making that first season of every year the big content season where we get maybe 2 new operators and a new map. And that would be like a huge marketing boom for this game every season when it desperately needs it, in my opinion. I agree. We don't need a ton of new maps in this game, but I also don't think asking for 1 new map per season is too much either. 1 new map per year is too much.
Okay, yeah, 1 new map per year, I can get behind that. I think 1 per season would be too much.
Absolutely, completely agree.
If we're talking PR, I think there is. I think there's 2 ways of doing that. So you have I'm gonna rail a little on Call of Duty because that was my favorite game until they changed the way they did it. The same with Battlefield. The second that the amount of content, or the flow, becomes the goal over the identity of the game or whatever you want to call it, that's when the real fan base, the ones that like are there for the game and not just because there's new shiny things, but the ones that truly like it, they interact with the community, all of that. That's when they start losing faith in it. When you start flooding it with loot boxes or season passes or whatever it might be, you get paywalls, you come with like metric shit ton of DLCs and weird stuff. Like we're getting the seasons, we get some new stuff there. That's great. I think anything more than that, I'd rather just see a quality increase in it, because I don't want it to turn into like the Beats by Dre of video games, where it's just a ton of fancy stickers, but the product costs the same. I'd much rather that Siege was some sure, like I don't really have whether they do one or the other. Like it's they have to justify it to some investors at some point, right? So they have to make the right business decision. But if they could make the by the heart decision, whatever you want to call it, where it didn't matter, I would rather that the main focus became to make the game that they wanted to make with their vision without worrying about if we have 50 million or 100 million players. You're not going to be able to satisfy everyone, and the bigger it gets does not mean it gets better, right? Often you dilute things to get them to a wider audience. So it ends up being a little worse for the ones that were there to start with. Then you can argue that maybe it's better that more people like it. I don't know. But I'd rather that Siege became the CS version where, like, CS hasn't changed that much. It really hasn't. And I know that they've gotten their battle royale thing in CS. They've gotten their weird co-op operation and stuff. But the main normal core CS is not that different from the one we played 20 years ago, right? Still kind of the same guns, kind of the same maps, and you know that if you return to CS, you're gonna have an idea about what it is. I don't want Siege to turn into like a Battlefield or a Call of Duty, where I launch it, I'm gonna go, what the hell happened? Just because the important thing became getting new content. I don't want, if I take half a year break or a year break and come back, I don't want to sit down and go, what? Like, nothing is remotely relatable, right? So sure,
Right.
add one more map, add a couple operators and stuff, but don't turn it into don't turn it into this thing where the actual shop for the game is bigger than the game itself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you. Like, I would rather see, I get more enjoyment out of a well reworked map than a brand new map in a lot of ways. I think it's much more likely that I'm going to enjoy a reworked map than a new map. I'll say that. I mean, just statistically, that's like proven. Like,
Yeah, they do better.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So
they're also easier to learn.
Yeah, because you already know the general layout. Like, there's a lot of pros to that. I just think that, I think that what you're saying there, and I know that CS:GO is an extremely popular game. Don't get me wrong here, but I think what you're saying there is absolutely true, and will continue. Siege will continue to be a popular game on PC, but if the current roadmap continues, I'm not sure how much longer this game will have a healthy console player base. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think you're right, because it would be the first game ever to
Yeah.
do well on console.
Yep.
For more than 2 generations of games.
Well, I think you can maybe
marketing...
argue Grand Theft Auto, but that's a little bit of an exception. Again, I don't know how popular that actually is on console, but
I think it's extremely popular. But so at least within its,
that would be the first competitive
genre.
Shooter to transition from console generations. I think
right.
It would probably be the first console shooter to be popular for more than 4 years. I mean, popular. Like, we're talking like popular. I mean, I know people still play.
Unless we go back to GoldenEye. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's that.
But yeah, everything else, like Call of Duty, Battlefield, they live on the idea that every couple of years they put out a new game, right? Because they want to keep up with the new gen console, or there is new tech or whatever, right? And they're rolling through different publishers and stuff. The one thing I think we have to cherish, whether we like it or not, is that we so far have had the same team. Sure, that there's people changing in and out of the team, but it's the same group. It's the same core thing. From the shitty E3 reveal trailer with bad lighting and where there was no beams on the floor, and the game doesn't even resemble that, right?
Right.
There are people that worked on that still work on it now. And the game's still doing well. It's still improving. It's still climbing. That's a very, very positive thing. Without a doubt, Siege is not going to last for 10 years in its current state without seeing massive changes, right? Maybe it will on PC, but it's not going to do on console. Because the attention span of players is not long enough to stick with something for that long unless it's single player games that you're just truly hooked on, right? Like
Right.
old school Diablo or something, and it's still, you see the player base, like all of a sudden it just goes dunk, and you only have the most hardcore people staying there. So yeah, like that's gonna happen. But there's two types of products, right? There's the one where the cardboard box that they come in costs the same as the product itself, and you have all the fancy stuff. And then you have the ones in like the pretty much no marking on the cardboard box, but you know that the product in there was what you paid for, and the like it gets known by the quality of it and because it's good. So it's word of mouth, and that's the main reason that it stays. There's a strong community around it. I would rather that we become that product than the one where like we're telling the whole world that we're the best thing and come here and no one ever really, like, people play it for a year or half a year and then they go, we'll go try something else. Like,
well, along those lines, could you make the argument that maybe Siege isn't doing either right now? I mean, look at the streamer mode.
I think we're in limbo.
Streamer mode.
I think we're in limbo, like without a doubt. Streamer mode. Honestly, I'm fucking disappointed.
Yeah,
I really am. Especially because of the way that it was kind of announced. So I don't know I don't know why it started out like this. I don't know if it's technical test or whatever. Like, we got clarification that they're working on the two-way anonymity and they're working on the second iteration. But why the hell put it out? Why push it to release it if you're not gonna release it?
I'm going to defend it a little bit here, but this is about as far as my defense of this product goes. It's better than nothing for me because I can change my name on my account. And so here's what I'm going to do when the new season starts. I'm going to change my name on my main account, and I will never show it in a video or on stream. And therefore, when people do end up in my lobby, they're not going to see my name and say, that's Get Flanked.
So what when 90% of them have their third-party overlay that shows your aliases?
Do we have confirmation on that?
Unless they're closing the API, then they have it.
Because, okay, my impression, though, was that... Okay. Yeah, that must not be how it works. So, I thought that those things work based off of pixels. That's how it recognized who you were played against?
Yeah, so some of them do, but there was... there's a smart guy in chat that said something that I didn't really think about, is that how can it tell you when you're in game?
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, is it reading the pixels on the screen based upon how the screen changes?
How can it tell you that you're about to go in a game against a cheater?
Because it already knows that it's putting together the lobby.
Yep.
Yeah.
Without it, like, you're still in your main normal screen, right? You just have matchmaking. It pops up and says, "Oh, you have a game." It does that a couple seconds before you actually like start loading into game. So there's some sort of API access.
Yeah, there is.
And full rant, there's like, if they want to do this right, it's two-way anonymity or nothing. It is utterly useless to call something a streamer mode and not hide the name of the streamer. Like, what the fuck? It is inexcusable that, like, the people on your team are the least of your trouble. The people on the other team you're worried about. Right? Like, I can mute my team so they can't yell at me. Then you can say, oh, well, maybe they'll, like, for someone like XQC, it's probably a bit different. If he joins in, everyone will scream. Maybe someone will TK because, look, mom, I'm on TV. But if you can hide your name for the enemy team, you can hide it for your own team as well, right? Just hiding it for your own team still allows for stream sniping. Just as much. So, so like, that makes no sense. Do it for both, or it's pointless. Hiding your clearance level, like, put something else there. Don't just give it a dash,
right?
Because the first thing that screams is, "Oh, this is a streamer." Like, it might legitimately make a streamer with 10 viewers get more toxicity than they otherwise would, just because people realize, oh, this guy has the setting on, he's streaming, right?
Unless that's a great point, and the only way around that is if it becomes commonplace let's say that in 50% of your lobbies, 50% of the people have it on.
Sure.
That's what needs to happen in order for that to work.
But then we have the problem with profile picture and clearance level and that and your name. So right now it's just giving you like NATO NATO names, right? So you have like Golf Yankee, stuff like that. And it'll show for the other team as well, but it's client-sided. So if I turn it on, the whole lobby just becomes Alpha Bravo the whole way down. Cool, like that's pretty much what I want. But it doesn't help if it doesn't show for others. And I think right now, if I click on someone, I still see their actual name.
Yes, you do.
Like, what's the point?
I
can just go through the list, right? Like,
here's the only thing I can think is that they are having a really hard time figuring out how to do the anonymity and still give you the way of reporting people and tracking that. That's the only way I can think that they're.
I refuse to believe that they're competent enough to make a game this technically advanced. I don't buy it.
But if you go down that road, then what's the reason then? It's got to be a competence on one side or the other. If that's what you're saying, you're either saying one, they're incompetent and they don't know that the streamer mode is worthless, or two, they're incompetent and they don't know how to build a streamer mode.
Yeah, I think it's probably a mix of both. I think there are too many people that this shit has to go through, and I think stories get like, you ask people what is it we're looking for, and then when it's been retold 9 million times, it's not really what it was supposed to be. I think there's a bit of that in it, because that's how most things work when you go through long chains, right? There's certainly some sort of technical stuff, but what we know so far is that they have the match ID, right?
Yeah.
They've said that they can see stuff by posted video. I don't really know how that works, but like if there is a video up with a cheater and you report it, they can like figure out what game it is from the video. However that works, I don't know, but probably, I don't know, AI, or maybe it's a match ID or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe some hidden pixels or something. I don't know.
No idea. But when I press tab on TS, I have a match ID, right? So they already know the list. They don't have to hide the names for anyone but me and the 9 other people in there. The names can be on a database next to your anonymity ones, right? It could literally, all they had to do was just turn off the kill feed and turn off the scoreboard. If you just did that, I had no way of knowing who I was against, right?
Okay. How do you think the community would react, though?
What, if streamer mode existed?
Okay, let's say that the way that they work this out is that from now on in Rainbow Six Siege, when you join a game, the player list is going to be Habana, Echo, Thermite, whatever, and then it just lists the operator names.
What's
in the kill feed, and then at the end of the game, you see the real names.
Yeah,
that would be how I would try to do this. Exactly. But my concern is, how do you think the community would react?
I don't care, because there is not a good argument for why it shouldn't be. If anyone, and like I'm willing to have the discussion, if anyone can come up with a good reason for why you should be able to see the name of who you're against.
As long as you click on that name and you report them and that works, I can't think of a really good reason either, other than people just want people to see their toxic name, that they were creative enough to get around the system that exists to try to stop them from doing that.
So witch hunting becomes a lot harder, which is a good thing. If you do it this way. Reporting doesn't change at all. You report the match ID and you say the guy named Golf was wallbanging everyone. Fair enough. They check it just the same as they do now. Toxic chat doesn't change at all. Also, I don't think you should be able to talk to the other team during a ranked game. I'm fine with it in unranked and casual, but that's a personal thing. I think when you're competing, you need to not communicate with the other team. It's just seems more serious. I think all chat should be turned off in ranked by force. And then you turn it on when the match ends, so you can say GG. I think you'll see a lot less toxicity, or at least you'll see it so condensed that it becomes a lot easier to moderate. Then you call everyone operator names instead. So now we have the fix for not knowing if it was a Melusi or a Doc that shot you. Right? just says
Right.
Melusi shot you. And then
So
you can have a number
let
next
me
to their
throw one
name,
thing
so we
out real
can.
quick. Let me throw one thing out real quick because the obvious thing is, well, now everybody's gonna know what operator I'm playing before it's
Hmm?
revealed. Clearly, you work around that some way, and like maybe you don't do operator names, maybe you do the generic
Wait,
NATO names that you're talking about. But
y-
what we're saying is that everybody in the lobby would have a generic name, whether it's operator name, NATO name, whatever. Everybody in the lobby has a generic name that they see.
we can just call them player 1 to 10.
Yes,
Done.
that works as
It,
well.
it does matter. There's a million ways to solve that one. And then you give them the operator icon whenever they're spotted,
Yeah.
right? Whatever you might do then. I know for a fact that when a game is played, there will be a log, because otherwise they would have no way of moderating the chat and all of that. So there has to be a log with a match ID. In the match ID, it will say what players are in that match. It will say their chat logs. Everything will be, you can look up, right? So nothing changed
Yeah.
there. So if you're being an asshole, if you're being toxic, if you're cheating, first off, the karma system will still be working. That doesn't change anything. Your reports will still be working. And we've already seen cheaters be able to change their name in game. I had a cheater on the other team. This is about a year ago, though. But it was still back when you couldn't change your name all the time. That joined the lobby with my name. And we're not talking like Cyrillic or special letters. It was my name. So there are ways to change it. If the cheaters can, then I sure hope that the team can as well. I don't know if there's maybe there's some legal reason behind it. I don't know. And on top of that, none of it will matter if they don't remove the API.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Or the API doesn't have a way of preventing. Yeah. Here's where I go with this, and this is more worrying in my opinion, because listen, I don't think that they're incompetent and they can't build a good streamer mode. I don't think that they're incompetent and they don't realize that this streamer mode is as bad as it is. I think that Rainbow Six Siege is not getting the resources that it should have right now. I'm just gonna say it. I don't know what that means. Does that mean that Ubisoft corporate is not dedicating the budget to Rainbow Six Siege that it should have in order to make one new map a year, in order to make a streamer mode that works effectively, in order to have the reputation system rolled out over year 5 instead of delayed till year 6, in order for match replay to work well at this point?
That's still incompetence.
It is, yes.
The question is just where in the chain it is.
It's incompetence, but it's not incompetence to the people who are actually working on the game. Okay?
So we both 100% agree there. I don't think for a second that the people actually hands-on on the game are not capable of doing it. I don't think they're getting what they need to be able to do it. And I think that's what most people, or most problems at the end of the day, comes down to in almost every single game. The developers are almost always the ones that care the most. It is whatever is above that and above that and above that, right?
Yeah.
So with something like streamer mode, I refuse to believe that the people that are sitting there day in and day out, working on it, having streams up, like, damn, half of the devs watch streams regularly. Let's not pretend like they don't know how bad it is. They see it. Like, they see the same asshole that is stream sniping you come into your chat while there is devs in your chat, right? Looking at it going, oh my god. And it's got to be embarrassing, right? Like, you got to feel horrible about it. The same when you see a cheater. Like, it must be like if you're a car salesman and you're just seeing like all your cars out on the road have rust everywhere, right? It just, there's some sort of like professional pride in it that just feels shitty.
Right.
And it can't be nice, especially not if you're sitting there thinking, I want to fix it, but I can't. Because I don't have the resources, don't have the time, whatever it might be. The thing is, as the consumer, at the end of the day, we don't know if they don't tell us.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, in all honesty.
Well, no, you'll give more leeway if you get the explanation.
Well, okay, but at the end of the day, we have a product that should be better than what it is. And it doesn't matter if it's whose fault it is. At the end of the day, we're the ones that should have a better product. Right? And here's the bigger thing. This is why I mentioned that. So, okay. when you look at the streamer mode, and now it starts to really kind of open my eyes to like Habana. Habana has not worked, I'll say flawlessly, since she was introduced in the game. Even still to this day, randomly, sometimes you have one of her pellets that chooses not to explode or something like that. And I've always been somebody who's come to the fence and said, listen, Rainbow Six Siege is a much more ambitious game than your typical first-person shooter. It is not fair to compare the way that the sound has to work in Siege to another game where the sound is so much simpler. And like Habana's, I will do. I will still die on that hill, absolutely. But when you look at these, I feel like streamer mode's a layup, man. They didn't have to be ambitious with it. Sure, they didn't have to like reinvent the wheel. They just had to look at what Valorant did and do it just as good.
And you don't have to go. You don't even have to go to Valorant because Valorant did nothing. They just copied what everyone else did.
Exactly.
They just made a streamer mode. The problem I have is that I find it arrogant to release something and call it a streamer mode when it doesn't do the one thing it's supposed to do. It's like saying. It's like releasing a dev block where you say don't cheat and then that's your anti-cheat. Like there's no point, right? Like, we have a streamer mode. Well, does it hide your name? No, not really. Okay. Like,
yeah.
You could have called it hide ping mode, and I'd be fine. Just don't sell it to me like it's a streamer mode because it's not. It might be in 2 iterations or 3, but why push it?
Yeah,
why now?
And that's
like that
where
is a PR mess. Why?
Well, I think that when you word it like that, we as a community have to maybe take this as a lesson. Like when we get impatient about things and say, and we don't hear news on stuff that as quickly as we want, that maybe there's a good reason for it. But at the end of the day, I mean, streamer mode should have been out 2 years ago. Let's be real here.
Sure. I mean, it should have been out with the game, but many things should. And Siege grew and right, like, when I made content and when you made content, when that came out, when we all started, we all sucked, right? And we all got better over time. So did the game. Fair enough. Like some things should have been here that aren't. Like the entity needs to get better.
Yeah.
It's not good enough where it is now. It needs to get better. There's some massive improvements. I've never seen as many people get banned as they do now. I'm getting elo back every day, which is super good and horrendous at the same time, right? The fact that over the weekend I have had 400 elo change, that is around 16 games worth of unlegit games, and I'm only just at like diamond. Like I'm nowhere near. Like we have people in 10,000 elo, right? And I have like 4,600 or something. Like the fact that proportion of matches are getting traded forth and back with elo, that should not happen. It just shouldn't. And I'm the first to say that there's no game that is perfect. I know for a fact that Valorant has issues with cheaters as well, because it doesn't take me long to like do a bit of searching and figure out how many are, out there. And the fact that they remove some of their top players like out of the blue. And then the scary thing was that they got manually removed. They didn't get picked up by the anti-cheat. So that means that this super intrusive anti-cheat still wasn't enough to catch them, and they had to be manually removed. And that's a bit of I think Richard Lewis put that in a really good way, that is a PR nightmare, that you say that we have the one good anti-cheat that needs to have, not kernel, because people need to stop with that bullshit. BattlEye has kernel access as well, right? It's the fact that it forces unboot no matter what. So Valorant anti-cheat is running whether you're playing or not, unless you turn it off and restart. But when you have that amount of power on the PC, and you still have to manually go in and ban someone,
yeah,
that bothers me. Like there's something wrong with that. And like I'm not against the Vanguard at all. I have Valorant installed, and I actually think my Vanguard is running like 24/7, even though I never play Valorant. I didn't play it since the closed beta thing. But like no anti-cheat is perfect. Siege is just so far from what it should be. And I'm sure they're working on it. We don't see this increase in people getting banned. We don't see this increase in low-level accounts joining if it wasn't for the fact that people are getting banned, right? Like, something's happening. I know they can't be transparent with it when it comes to that, but I don't see why they couldn't be with streamer mode. I do not get what the excuse is for telling us, or not just telling us why. Why is it that difficult? Like, just be honest. Is it a technical issue? Is there some sort of thing with maybe there's some bullshit with the API? What happens if they do make the streamer mode? Well, the few problems is that if they do make the streamer mode so it actually works, that means that the third-party programs should not be able to tell me that I'm playing against you while we're playing.
Right.
So either they make an agreement with them that they only show that when the game stops. What do they do then with the people that are either sponsored by them or pay for their premium or all of that bullshit?
Right.
Because all of a sudden there's some money with some third-party companies.
And maybe you just answered your own question. How am I going to respond whenever I'm here? Whenever they say, "Hey, the reason that the streamer mode is the way it is because we have contracts with these companies that have APIs with us, and we can't force them to not show you your name." Like, how am I going to respond to that? That would probably be a worse.
I don't think that is the reason.
I don't either. But
I highly doubt that there is I don't know, maybe there is. But there is definitely some stuff with GDPR where like you could in theory reach out to one of these third-party companies and request that they take down the link to you. Especially if they have like your info, right? If they link to your social media and stuff like that. There are the whole right to be forgotten, all of this stuff. So you can do a GDPR request to those. You can probably reach out to them and ask for you not to show up on their platform. But it won't really have an impact because then you just start looking weird. Why are you not there, right? When other people are. And on the other hand, like, while I'm like super against the idea of a live third-party overview, I fucking hate it. Shouldn't be there. Shouldn't be allowed. I love the idea of a website where I can go in and see. I can look up the stats on me and my friends, or compare. We can talk about that. Ubi has their own version, but their version is not as good.
Right. Yep.
It's slow. It's harder to get to. Doesn't work as good on mobile. And I probably need an app. And I'm probably going to be reminded about some dumb trophy that a friend got because he got a flashbang kill at 4 o'clock at night. I don't care. Right? I just want to be able to open a page, search in, get flanked, and then see, oh man, you did so and so, and you were playing with these people. That's cool. But unless they can turn off that while in game, no point in streamer mode. Unless we get two-way anonymity in streamer mode, there's no point. Because sure, I can change my name to a barcode. I can make sure that I never show it. But then the only thing we got was Q sniping mode. And anonymity to our own team, which still doesn't work. Because if our own team clicks on our name, they still see our real name.
Well, no, it doesn't even hide your name to your own team. The only person when you turn on streamer mode, the only person in the lobby that sees the names are you. Everybody else in the lobby sees things as they normally are. So
it's actually closer to what do they call, like a maturity filter? Like
Mm-hmm.
It's closer to WoW's maturity filter where you can't say shit.
Right.
Like it just bleeps it out if there's any swearing. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up there. I mean, obviously the first hour and a half, though, I think there's a lot to be encouraged about with year 6 and the season.
I'm super excited.
I think the new operator's good, border's good, a lot of good stuff. Streamer mode ain't it. Let's say that. And let's just say that.
I think it's. Let's just be clear. When we are upset about something, I think this is enough for anyone that might be worried that if we're sometimes a bit or give more leeway than we should or blah blah blah. I think we're pretty vocal. Like if there are things we don't like, we'll let you know. And streamer mode ain't it.
Yeah.
It's goddamn poorly done. The rest of year 6, there's some super interesting shit, and like I don't think any of us are gonna like run away or upset about it or anything. But that's, I mean, it's good to voice the opinion on some of those.
Sure. Feels good to vent a little bit. So, all right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up there. Yeah, I guess that's it for the Crimson Heist special here, episode 40. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week, or I guess the following week. Yeah, we'll see you when you see you.
See you next time.